Europe uh, doesn't actually mean very much to me. Now, I know that sounds terrible, but let me put it this way. India also doesn't sound very much to me, doesn't make much sense to me. Example, what is Indian food? Okay, now everybody knows what Indian food is. Kormas and tikkas and tandoori. I know as an Indian that is not correct. That is not Indian food.
No.
That is food from one place in India.
Yeah.
So if I then translate that to the European analogy and ask you, what is European food? And you were to say goat's heads, because they eat it in Greece. It's quite tasty. But I think that many other Europeans will say, no, this is not European food. We also eat all sorts of other things. So first of all, in relation to your question about Europe, in my mind, I see the map of Europe, and I say, and I think to myself, what does it mean? To which part? Where? Mm-hmm. As a person who has spent most of his life outside of that region, first of all, I have tremendous admiration, mm-hmm. as do, I think, most people on the planet. Tremendous admiration for the culture, the thinking, the philosophy, and the achievements of what is described as Europe. I have to keep on saying what is described as Europe for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. But for that region of the earth, a great deal of respect, a great deal of admiration. That part of the world created much of the world as it is today. It did so using two methods. One was science and technology. The other was colonialism. I would hope that Europe would one day realize that these are two very different things. I hope that the European will take pride in the fact that they created a world using their thought, their inventions, and their science. And at the same time, I hope that they will not take pride in what colonialism did to the rest of the world. If they could do both, then perhaps they could take the right step forward. This whole issue of colonialism and not taking pride in colonialism, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, for a moment, let's say, what does taking pride in colonialism mean? Let's take the opposite. That's easier. You could say Europe. I'm not going to name parts of Europe. Now we will use Europe as the umbrella term. Europe brought the railway to the world. It changed the whole world. It globalized the world. It did a whole lot of things. It was literally the engine of the Industrial Revolution. The railways and the associated inventions. So, should Europe take pride in that? I think it should take pride in the fact that it invented the engine of the Industrial Revolution and the associated science, particularly the science of thermodynamics, which altered our entire view of the universe, not just the world. Of course, you should take a great pride in such understanding. But to take railways into countries is perhaps not such a enormous sense of pride associated with it. It's perhaps the right way would have been to say we took the railways into many parts of the world, and maybe we should have done it differently. Let's look for a minute at culture. Move away from science to culture. Among the first things that Europeans noticed, and particularly the Germans did, was the fact that their language had come from the East. It is a sense of great pride to me as an Indian, and I hope it is a matter of great pride to Germans to have actually unearthed that fact. Sanskrit, and what got to be called the Indo-European languages. Having discovered that, what the Germans did was to try and understand the basic literature of the Sanskrit world. And I think they were enriched by it. People like Max Müller, for example. They are legends in India, by the way, because I think as Indians we know that we would have not known as much about ourselves except for people like that. That to me is the face of Europe that I would like to see. Did it make Germany poorer? I don't think so. So they could do it again. Okay. They did the same or similar things. The heartland of Europe did similar things with the culture of Greece. That, of course, we all know. We use, any student of physics knows the entire Greek alphabet because of that. That's the good bit. We are proud of the achievements of the Greeks. We are proud that the basis of our thinking, of our art, of our architecture, all came out of Greece. Perhaps Europe should feel not so proud about how Greece is today, as opposed to saying it's all their fault. Okay? I would say, so when you look at these old cultures, from which, much of which Europe unearthed and used and admired, this is the good bit. The poor bit is of not looking back at them after all this is done, to look at where it came from and to say, what can we do for them apart from bringing in the railways?